what's going on in the world today, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, Annie, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, and featuring Curtis C.S. Bennett and the most interesting guests that you'll find anywhere on Internet radio. So sit back, relax, and remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
Good afternoon and welcome back to another adventure here on Southern Sense. You're watching live. Oh, well, did that go wrong? That looks better. That was strange. I'm your hostess with the least mostest, Annie the Radio Chick-A-Dee, and I can mess up an opening every single time. My guest co-host is Hannah Davis. She is from fairus.org. Welcome, Hannah. And how are you today?
Thanks, Annie. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. We got ourselves some great guests. Our friend Mark Tapscott comes on every other week from the Epoch Times. He'll be joining us at the start of the show. And then we have a new guest, Kevin Scholla. He's a sportscaster, a columnist. His stuff comes up on Breitbart and a couple other places. He's also on Mama Grizzly Radio. So it's going to be a very interesting show. We got a lot to talk about, a lot going on. I mean, this Hunter Biden pardon is really hitting the roof. Some of the things that are coming out now about that, questioning even the constitutionality of how extensive the pardon is. Now there's also rumors that he may have a whole list of other people, lefters, that he's liberals that he's thinking of giving pardons to before he leaves offices, including Liz Cheney on the list. And this is getting a little interesting and a little out of hand, I think. So we'll see what happens. We're definitely going to see what happens. It's very interesting. Oh, and the president of Mexico seems to be having a bit of a change of heart. There was a large arrest for fentanyl down there in one of the towns there. And now there was something else that hit on me that not about just the fentanyl, but something about closing part of the border. It's a little bit of a change of heart here. And that's your neck of the woods, immigration and things like that, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It's we stay busy. I think there's a changing of the tides with the new president-elect coming in the administration. And, he's ran on immigration and he's steadfast that he's going to be issuing these executive orders when he starts in his first 100 days. And I think people are starting to realize that our neighboring countries can't continue to exacerbate the issue for us. Even Canada is changing their tune, it's closing down the borders, saying things about migrants that they haven't been saying for the past 4 years. So it's really interesting how just the domino effect has already started. Yeah.
It is. It's very interesting. We have a lot to talk to you about on that also. Something about changing the app so people don't have to show their face.
Oh, yeah.
Your face just said it all.
Yeah, this new ICE portal app. I mean, we already have to deal with the CBP One app, which is just paroling people in. But this new ICE portal app, basically, because the backlogs are so bad, the migrants that are going to be checking themselves in don't have to do it in person anymore. They just do it. They check in on the app every once in a while, every couple of months. And then the location isn't shown when they do that too. So we don't know where they're checking in from. We don't know if who they are is really who they say they are, because once again, they're not in person in front of an ICE agent. And the backlogs are so bad. I think the backlogs go all the way out to like 2032. Which means these migrants who are going to be checking in virtually aren't going to be seen by an actual physical ICE agent until like the next 8 years. So we'll have no idea where they're at. We don't know who they are. We don't know if they're committing crimes in the process. It's just another way for the Biden administration to continue creating these new programs, because they know they're harder to get rid of than they are to create. And that's something I think DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, needs to crack down on.
Well, that's what we're going to be talking to Mark Tapscott on, because he wrote a really large article to that effect, and it'll be very interesting. But people that watch this show know that we start each and every show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today's dedication is going to go out to police officer Jacob Derbin of the Euclid Police Department of Ohio. His end of watch was on Saturday, May 11th of 2024. And the dedication is by What's Next from WKYT3 News out of Ohio. And here we go.
This is the end of watch for our brother, Officer Jacob Derbin, Badge 14. Your final 1042. Rest easy. We'll take it from here.
Tonight, remembering fallen Euclid police officer Jacob Derbin, 1 week after he was killed in the line of duty and laid to rest today. Good evening and thanks for joining us for What's Next. I'm Kaitor K. It has been an emotional day across Northeast Ohio as thousands came here to pay their respects to Officer Derbin. And after the final goodbye once he was laid to rest, another symbol of sadness for Euclid police.
Radio to all units. This is the final call for Officer Jacob Derbin, Badge 14. On Saturday, May 11th, 2024, Officer Derbin bravely gave his life for his brothers and sisters in blue. Your courage and sacrifice will never be forgotten. You dedicated yourself to protect and serve the city of Euclid. You are the true definition of the word hero.
That was part of the call across the police scanner right at 2:57 this afternoon. It was the only traffic to be heard on the Euclid Police Channel all day as it remained silent in Officer Derbin's honor. The Ohio State Highway Patrol and other local police departments helped to keep watch on the area so officers could attend today's funeral. And the day was not without other incredibly emotional moments, such as the overhead scenes from the 3 News drone of the thousands of mourners lined up at the St. Columkill Parish in Parma today, all waiting to honor Officer Derbin. The mass was broadcast at multiple locations around the church campus due to the overwhelming attendance. Then there were these images of the dozens upon dozens of police canine units, officers from all around the area lined up in a row with their dogs, all in honor of Officer Derbin, who was himself an animal lover. And then this afternoon, before the end of watch was called, the lines of mourners following Officer Derbin's family and friends to his final resting place at the cemetery. Officer Derbin's funeral today gave us new insight into what he was like, whether having fun with his comrades on the police force or planning to be a husband to his high school sweetheart Liv, who he couldn't wait to marry this summer. So many stories today that helped the community understand what a bright light he was. Armidi Hicks has more.
The sun peeks out on what began as a cloudy morning for Euclid police officer Jacob Derbin's final ride through Northeast Ohio. He's not alone. A grieving law enforcement community joins him. Residents too along the sidewalks with signs and tears to wave goodbye as he makes his way to St. Columkill Parish. Hundreds celebrating a man who put his faith, family, and country first.
When he was deployed to Kuwait, he gave a Black Army-issued rosary to his future mother-in-law and asked for her prayers.
And as someone who would do anything for anyone, even taking a bullet for strangers, costing him his life.
There is no doubt that his actions saved the lives of 4 individuals, 2 of his fellow police officers and 2 citizens. Jacob, you are a true hero.
Death means he won't meet his fiancée at the church altar with a ring in hand for marriage. So she met him there instead.
To my best friend.
With a letter in hand, family and friends bearing witness to describe what she calls a fairy tale love.
Thank you for meeting my insecurities with kindness. for looking into my tired eyes and offering me a place to rest. Thank you for keeping me warm and holding me when things got too heavy.
Inside the parish, a profound grief for great love.
Jacob, the world was truly a better place with you in it. Now heaven will receive that same benefit.
And instead of flowers, Officer Derbin's friends and family would like people to donate to the K-9 unit, a team he dreamed of working with. Kaitor.
Mitty Hicks, thank you. Today's funeral also gave the public the chance to say goodbye to Officer Derbin. After a long and emotional week of vigils and remembrances, many people we talked to today helped ease their grief by coming out to say a final goodbye.
I felt I had to be here, you know.
As did hundreds, to pay their respects to the amazing life and legacy of Jacob Derbin, one of the finest officers Euclid police ever had, gone too soon.
I feel horrible for his family, for his friends.
From the funeral home to the church, the community lined the streets to watch the procession of their fallen hero.
Something like this happens, the community needs to join together.
It was very heartwarming, and heartwarming to see people standing here, you know, honoring somebody who was so young and gave his life for this.
Family friends of the Derbins praying for strength for Jacob's fiance and healing for his mother, Dawn.
And it just brings tears to your eyes. It's just like, I can't imagine the pain that Dawn is going through now. I hugged her this morning. She looked, you know, she's so strong, and it's just so sad.
The deep gratitude this community feels for Officer Derbin to never fade, nor their passion for all men and women in blue.
I just want to thank every single police officer that serves, and they're always in our hearts.
My heart goes out to all of them.
And we're here to show our support.
Along the funeral procession route today were countless American flags and signs that read, "Hometown Hero, Born to Serve, We All Mourn Together." We also learned during the funeral service today that Officer Derbin will receive the Medal of Honor for his actions last Saturday, which saved the lives of 2 police officers and 2 citizens. According to Euclid's police chief, no other officer in the history of the Euclid police force has ever received this honor. And we invite you all to watch our complete coverage of fallen officer Jacob Derbin's funeral services today, the day's events, and our analysis, all on our website, WKYC.com, and on the WKYC 3 News app.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, Father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other, oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, when our time has come. We gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother,
All right, and we're back, and you're watching Southern Sense Live on southernsense.net, on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and half a dozen other places I can't even remember. And also audio feed out on Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, and Blog Talk Radio, and everywhere else. Matter of fact, Blog Talk Radio is going out of business in the end of January, and everything's being moved over to Spreaker. So we can find it on Spreaker also. Anyway, I'm your hostess with the least mostest, the Radio Chick-A-Dee, Annie, along with my co-host, Hannah Davis of FAIR, fairus.org. Hannah, you wrote an excellent article back in November, right after Gavin Newsom decided to declare the state of California a sanctuary state. And now you have a bunch of other governors that started to jump on board. And now they're doing these ordinances and legislation to make themselves sanctuary proof. How can they do that and usurp federal law?
Yeah, that's the question. And when Trump was last in office, he tried to withhold federal funding to states that did have sanctuary cities. And it came into play the anti-commandeering doctrine, which basically means that the federal government can't make the state act and cooperate with federal ICE agents. And so that's why we can't withhold these federal funds. And I think that's only bolstered the states that are left-leaning and decide to, push forward these ordinances and resolutions to become sanctuary cities. California, I mean, they're really the leaders of the pack. You've got Governor Newsom out there saying he's going to try and Trump-proof his state. The AG out there in California is already drafting legislation. He anticipates going to court against the president-elect's upcoming administration. There's a lot of small municipalities across California as a whole that are doubling down on their sanctuary policies. And for every, couple states that are this way, there's always a couple states that do the opposite. But I think in the grand scheme of things, there does need to be another federal debate on whether or not the states can actually be forced to dismantle all of their sanctuary policies. And then you keep going east a little bit more. You've got the Denver mayor, Mike Johnson, saying that he would be willing, he said this, he'd be willing to go to jail to defend the migrants, and that he'd actually be willing to place the Denver Police Department officers in such a way where they'd be blocking ICE agents from being able to do their job up there in Denver. These positions are radical, and they only incentivize more illegal immigration, and they only prioritize migrants over actual U.S. citizens. And it's a shame because it's like a domino effect. You've got Newsom doing that, and then Denver, and then you hop on to the East Coast, and you've got New York City Mayor Adams, who has admitted, there's multiple quotes where he's admitted that, the migrants have destroyed, quote unquote, his city, but he's still defending the sanctuary policies. And it just doesn't make any sense how you can understand, if 1 + 1 = 2, but he sees the actions, but he doesn't see that it's him that has placed these ordinances into effect and what it's doing. And until I really hope that the president-elect continues to tout off this idea. He said it, but I hope he does it again, where he tries to withhold funds, and that way maybe it could become a Supreme Court issue, because I don't think that the anti-commandeering doctrine or whatever it is that says you can't force the states to cooperate, I don't think that's enough. I think the states should be cooperating with the federal government, and that they shouldn't do anything to be derelict of duty or block cooperation in any form. And that's what these sanctuary states are doing, and it's wild.
But isn't it the duty of the President of the United States to defend the nation? So if we're being invaded by, people will say migrants, but I say illegal aliens.
Mm-hmm.
They are alien to our nation. They did not come in here legally. So I'm sorry, it's his job to defend us from invasion. So how can I would say the Supreme Court most likely will side on the side of the president to defend our sovereignty, because that's what it is. We're losing our sovereignty.
Yeah, it's destroying us from the inside out. And I think on top of defending our sovereignty and protecting the U.S. citizens, the president of the nation, regardless of who they are, has a right to call out the states who are actively going against what's best for the nation. And, this is a crisis by design. It's calculated. And I do think the Supreme Court, if this ever got that far, would side with any president who puts America first and puts American people first. Yes.
We already know in this past election, illegals had attempted, and one Chinese guy did vote illegally. And isn't that their intention then, to stuff the ballot box?
I think that's one of the big ones, but I think there's also this perspective of globalism, this world without borders, this world government concept. I do think that open border concepts are inherently to sway elections, to tout off this humanitarian approach where we need to do unto others, but we're also forgetting about ourselves in the process, and that's the rub. Right. But at the grand scheme of things, those two things may be true, but it doesn't mean that these people that have these same policies, these same types of ideologies, they are probably 9 times out of 10 also going to be globalist. They don't believe in borders. They believe, they're UN people, they believe in a world concept of shared power. And that's just not what we were founded on. And that's not the way we want our nation to go. And hopefully with the changing of the tides and the president-elect coming into office pretty soon, things like that will be put to an end, or at least mitigated for the next 4 years.
Well, you mentioned the UN several times, and I'm trying to get this. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres openly called on government worldwide to adopt a global censorship framework, urging them to rein in hate speech and disinformation spreading online.
That's the freedom of speech, and then that's also very subjective. I mean, you're going to say, I could go on Twitter or X, and type out a status that says, close the border should be shut, and someone could view that as offensive. So where do we draw the line with hate speech? And at the end of the day, this is America, and we have the freedom of speech, and that's another reason why I think they want to go to this global conglomerate of powers, because the Constitution will no longer stand, and we won't be able to, we can't enforce that we abide by American doctrine across the world, and that's what they're trying to do. It's sound policy, freedom of speech, and censorship. I've never known one government that was censoring its people that ever ended up on the right side of history. So,
well, we are up on X Live right now. That's true. And I'm watching the numbers grow as people are tuning in. And thank you for guys out there for supporting us. But Gutierrez is warning about this very platform, the unchecked digital platforms, he's calling them, and saying that he called the worst impulses of humanity, allegedly jeopardizing global stability. And he's got a UN-backed initiative called the teeth in backwards, Global Digital Compact to silence speech deemed undesirable. Now, I've already been kicked off of YouTube several times, and several of my Facebook accounts no longer exist, but I'm back up on YouTube and Facebook. Shh, don't tell anyone. As well as up on Rumble, on Truth Social, on, oh, good Lord, I don't even know where I am half the time. So one way or another, we're going to get our voices heard out there. But this is what they want. They want a global world. Yeah. George Soros, the WEF, the UN. But that's where the power is. Because now they dictate what you wear, what you eat, where you live, what your employment is. If you get any social services, new digital currency, can you spend it? If you turn around and have something deemed hate speech, all of a sudden that bread and milk and eggs you want to buy, you can't because they closed off. This is what they want. And this is why it's so important we keep our sovereignty.
Yeah, it's very Orwellian in the sense that, I mean, the censorship comes into play, and you're right. You know, what if you're censored too much and then all of a sudden you don't have access to your bank account as a punishment? And I know this seems very, abstract to people, but, they're trying to lay down the blueprint right now. Anybody who mentions censorship and shutting down freedom of speech platforms, whether, they be something like X that we're on right now, is attempting to lay a blueprint and trying to garnish attention and gather I guess people who have like-minded ideas to see how far they can take it. And so right now is when we need to nip it in the bud. Right now we need to fight back and make sure we're continuing to use X and continuing to speak our minds. And of course, racism and bigotry is always going to be horrible, but freedom of speech is a paramount essential of being an American citizen. And what really grinds my gears is when people will call you these words. They'll say you're racist or xenophobic, especially in my line of work doing immigration, all because I said we need to have a closed border, all because I say that a porous border will equate to increased healthcare issues at hospitals or increased crime rates, and then I'm gone, and what my organization's called racist, et cetera, and that's just not the case. And so there's always a fine line, and everybody's opinion matters, but censoring people's opinions is not the way that we want to run things here in this nation.
No, it's not. It's not at all. And we're seeing it happen on the mainstream media when you get them turning around and the word Nazi is just used unmercifully.
Yeah.
And Herman Cain, God bless him, had a wait, what is it? Oh, good Lord. There was a acronym that we used to use, and I'll think of it now. Anyway, with that said, let's bring on our buddy onto the stage. Welcome back, Mark Tapscott from the Epoch Times, the senior DC correspondent. How are you today?
Doing?
I'm doing fine. I mean, the world has gone upside down, and this, I don't know anymore. But we have as our guest co-host Hannah Davis from fairus.org.
Hey, Anna, how you doing?
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good to see you.
She's the one that flew us up into D.C. to lobby for HR 2 when you and I were supposed to have the cup of coffee that day together, and we didn't get together.
Anna, bring her back.
Okay.
Or bring her somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Just tell me where to go, right? And listen, besides immigration that we were talking about, Hannah mentioned your article, which she read, about Doge. Was put out yesterday in the Epoch Times, titled "With Doge, Musk Ramaswamy Confront the Immovable Object." Yeah. And I listened to the talking heads talk about this yesterday, and I'm putting your article in one side of my mind while I listen with the other side. And I'm saying, boy, I think a lot of them should start talking to you to find out where the problems are and how to help untie the knots. It's an excellent article because they're looking at possibly trimming $2 trillion out of unnecessary funds. Now, sounds great, but what are the pitfalls they're going to face?
There are so many of them. And I'll tell you, I've covered waste and fraud and abuse issues in the federal government for much longer than I care to remember. As far back as the late 1970s during the Carter administration, when some folks will remember the General Services Administration was on the front page many days, paying paying for things like 3 coats of paint when only one was put up on a federal building, that kind of stuff.
I remember the price of the hammer.
The price of the hammer, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I tell you, and it is so much worse today. There was, with the pandemic, basically the federal government went nuts and spent trillions and trillions of dollars, which now, if you go back and look at the audit results, much of it went to people that, we don't even know where they are, who they are, why they got the money. And
to quote you from your article, with the 935 pandemic-related investigations with over 22,000 subjects and an estimated fraud loss of more than $2.25 billion.
Yeah.
Wow.
That probably underestimates it pretty significantly.
And
that's
fraud
just
alert,
one little thing.
Yeah.
But
then you go on about the Small Business Administration, the pandemic loans. That was over 69,000 questionable Social Security numbers, obtaining $5.4 billion in SBA loans.
It just goes on and on and on. And the point and the real fundamental fact about this issue in the federal government is that there are actually 2 of them. Democrats and Republicans alike, presidents in both parties, are responsible for the fact that we have a federal government that has no clue how much money it's spending, who's getting most of it, or what to do about it now. And the second one being the extent of this problem, thanks mainly to the complexity of the federal bureaucracy and the ability of the career civil service to resist and defeat efforts to make it more efficient. This really is. It's very much like Elon Musk is the unstoppable force, and the federal behemoth is the immovable object. And I just hope these folks realize how big a challenge they're taking on, because it is. Trump got it right. He said, this is the biggest thing we've done since the Manhattan Project. So,
wow.
I agree with you, Mark, that streamlining and reducing government overspending should always be a bipartisan issue. It took both parties to get us in here. So, what do we say to the naysayers? Like, what do we say to people who I think the biggest argument against DOGE is that, in essence, it's inherently creating what it's trying to get rid of, because it's going to create a whole nother department filled with people, these bureaucrats that are. You see where I'm going with that? Like, I don't know what to say to people when they ask that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Again, I'm old enough to remember the old days in the Reagan administration.
There's only a few years difference between you and me.
Yeah. But there was a commission called the Grace Commission, which was headed by Peter Grace, who at the time was the CEO of the W.R. Grace Company, which is a huge corporation. And they put together a staff, and they went through the federal government, and they made hundreds and hundreds of recommendations for changes to save money, make government more efficient, and so forth, many of which were actually adopted because President Reagan was very personally interested in this issue, and he kept track of, which recommendations were making progress and which ones weren't. But Grace was only advisory. If Reagan had said, okay, go do your thing and don't bother me anymore, which is the usual approach for a commission, it wouldn't have saved any money probably, and none of us today would even remember that it existed. The difference is, and I think this shows some creative thinking on the part of the Trump people. It's an advisory commission. DOJ is not really a government department, but it's going to channel its recommendations through the Office of Management and Budget, OMB. There is an office in the OMB, which, if I recall correctly, was established by Reagan, called the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, which has the authority on a tremendous variety of issues and procedures and processes to tell federal agencies, okay, you can do it this way, but you can't do it that way. That is a potentially a very effective way of getting through some really important reforms in how the federal government functions. It can also be a place where good recommendations go to die, just in case, the bureaucrats decide they don't like a recommendation. But I'm reasonably optimistic that they will make some progress.
Wow. This is going to be very interesting because we got the House, we've got the Senate, and we've got the White House. So
Barely
maybe,
got the House.
Yeah, I believe it's 2 seats now.
Yep. And you know what that means? That means every member is Speaker of the House, at least potentially.
Well, the question is now that with the people that he's picking for various places, he's pulling out people from the House and Senate. And there's a couple of them, like Elise Stefanik. New York, which way will it go? Will it stay Republican? That one county, because it's the far north. It's up by it goes all the way up to Canada, the county, the district that she's in.
Yeah.
So she's not being controlled by Albany or New York City, but still the question is, will that remain Republican? Will we lose that seat? So when we see things like this, you go, well, should he leave a Republican in place in the House and Senate and pick someone else?
I'm sure that was a discussion that the Trump inner circle had for many days. I suspect in that particular case, I don't know what your take is on Elise Stefanik. My take on her, having covered her for a couple of years now in the House, I think she's very smart and she is very tough. And that's a good prescription for somebody that's going to go to the United Nations and basically tell the world to go stuff it.
Oh man, it's interesting as we see things unfold, because now there's a lot of flack coming back about the Hunter Biden pardon. There was a judge, a federal judge, that wrote a scathing ruling, Judge Skarsky. Have you heard about that?
I've heard about it, but I haven't read the opinion. So,
well, he got rather upset, and he at the claims that the charges were politically motivated.
Yeah.
And he made it clear that he found the president's statements to be both baseless and offensive. And he took issue with Biden's assertion that Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, pointing out this claim contradicted the finding of both Skarsky and another federal judge, Mary Ellen Noriega, who had previously ruled that Hunter was not a victim of selective or vindictive prosecution. So it's calling the integrity of these two judges into question by the president.
The most amazing thing to me about the pardon, and I'm in the group of Americans that probably make up most of us. When I first heard about it, I said, well, what'd you expect? The most amazing thing about it is that Biden claims that his son was politically targeted by his Department of Justice. Now, aside from the illogic of his Department of Justice targeting his son, that says, from the mouth of Joe Biden, that the Department of Justice is, just as Donald Trump has been saying for these many years, politicized. So, let's not hear any more about Donald Trump being wrong to say that he's been politically targeted. He clearly has been, and we got Joe Biden who can attest to that it's a politicized Justice Department.
Well, Scarsy went further on to say it might be constitutionally flawed because of the broad powers he used. He found the scope of the pardon troubling and its prospective elements because it's over a 10-year period, and he thought it exceeded the bounds of the president's constitutional authority. And he also stated that because Biden did the pardon in a press release. He said a press release is not a pardon.
That's true.
So does he really have a pardon now?
Yeah. Hannah, are you an attorney?
No, I'm not.
No. Okay. So there's three reasonably sane people here in this discussion.
Wait a minute. My sister's an attorney, and she's really she's super conservative.
Good. I'm not an attorney, so I can't speak to the constitutional issues, but that is one of the things that jumped out at me, as it did, lots of people. My gosh, this is a get out of jail free card. It's not a presidential pardon. It's here, go do whatever you want. Don't worry about what you've already done. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody tries to mount some kind of a legal challenge. I don't know how far it'll go.
But what now would happen if, as they threaten to do these broad range pardons for all these people like Fauci, Lynn Cheney, and so forth, like they're proposing?
Well, I'll be amazed if there's not a pardon for the Biden brothers, quite possibly for one of the Biden brothers' wives. I can never remember which one. She was a recipient, at least her bank account was the recipient of multiple payments that somehow ended up with Hunter Biden. So I'll be amazed if there's not pardons there. The pardons that are being talked about for Nancy Pelosi, for Lynn Cheney, I'd be surprised if they try to go that far, because that really would just politicize it beyond repair.
Yeah, because there is questions about whether or not she had destroyed evidence from the J6.
Yeah.
And this is starting to all blow up.
Yeah, if she did in fact do that, and I won't be at all surprised if we ever do find all of the facts that tons and tons and tons of material were destroyed by Cheney and the rest of the Democrats on that investigative committee. That's something that Congress will have to deal with. And that could get really interesting.
Wow.
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
that would most definitely beat CNN ratings.
Oh, yeah. And the interesting thing is, the Congress can order Lynn Cheney and Nancy Pelosi, after Pelosi's out of Congress, which I expect her to be soon. And some of these other folks, they have to come in and sit down and answer questions. They can plead the fifth, but what's that going to do to their credibility? Especially
zero.
Yeah, especially when the House Administration Subcommittee that's investigating all this stuff, Congressman Barry Loudermilk from Georgia, I believe, they are really uncovering all kinds of really incriminating documents. We haven't heard the last of that.
Wow. It's going to make it sound like Watergate was a kiddie ride compared to what we're going to be facing.
Absolutely.
And one other thing that Jonathan Turley, an attorney, had pointed out, he was up on Newsmax the other day, and he said, with this pardon, Hunter Biden basically doesn't have a Fifth Amendment right. a right to be silent. So now he can be questioned
Exactly.
about a broad range of items and exposing a lot of things that he knows about that could cause Joe Biden to shoot himself in the foot.
Yeah, well, or other places. Yeah. Yeah. Annie, forgive me, but I am losing my voice, and I really do need to get off of here.
Okay. Well, Mark, we'll see you again in another 2 weeks. And
and I hope
well,
I see you again, too.
Is that after Christmas? Wait a minute. 2 weeks, is that after? No, that's just before Christmas.
Just before Christmas. I'll be
Just
a Christmas present for you. I'll try to do it in 30 minutes.
All right. Well, people can find you at theepochtimes.com. God bless you, Mark, and thank you for all the hard work you do. Take care. All right. Mark Tapscott, he's a good friend of mine. He's been on the show, oh, good Lord, maybe as far back as 2011, 2012. We go way back, way back. It's always fun. He comes on every 2 weeks. Got the new gentleman to come in and join us. Want to welcome to the teeth in backwards. I cannot talk today. Kevin Scholla. Welcome aboard, Kevin. How are you today?
Hi, Andy. Great. Thank you so much for including me today.
All right. Guest co-host is Hannah Davis with fairus.org. She was originally with Heritage Foundation, and they kidnapped her, and she got kidnapped over to FAIR.
Right. I see. I was part of Project 2025, I bet, right? That's what the media would say, Hannah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Kevin.
We know you as a sportscaster and a columnist. Didn't want to say communist. Columnist. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so Mama Grizzly Radio, I founded back in 2011, back when we had hoped and thought that perhaps Governor Palin was going to run for president. And then about 3 shows in, Steve Bannon was on, Newt Gingrich. We had some great guests. Well, Governor Palin announced she wasn't running. And we said, but wait a minute, this was such a good start and her values aren't going anywhere. So let's keep the show going. And, you know, here we are years later and still doing it. So Mama Grizzly Radio, the Palin Update is the show on there. And then also I've been a columnist for quite a while for sarahpalin.com, for Breitbart News. Recently, I wrote a couple of pieces for the New York Sun, and I announced for several pro and college teams.
Wow. Which pro teams do you announce for? Be interesting.
So I announced for the Trenton Thunder in New Jersey. They were the Yankees AA for many, many years. Now they're part of the MLB Draft League, and also for the Philadelphia Rebels, an NAHL hockey team out of Philadelphia. And then for years I worked for CBS, 13 years for CBS, and I covered all sports, but largely the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies in baseball, and a lot of college basketball there as well.
College basketball is the best. I'm from North Carolina, so we have a lot to pick from. So go Heels.
So I was just going to say, Hannah, which side of that are you on? Okay, Heels. You know, Hannah, I was at a wedding once where a Tar Heel married a Blue Devil, and it was really cool. Every table had a trading card of one of the players, so you were either a Duke table or a North Carolina table, depending what side you were on. Now, I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm a Big East guy, but it was an interesting thing, and to have a wedding like that, you know, that's pretty tough, I guess, to have a Dookie and a Heel together, but that's how it went.
That's a house divided.
That's right.
I'll tell you what, because I'm from Long Island, New York originally, even though I'm down in South Carolina. But I grew up and lived there and retired from that area. And that was when the Mets were being formed. So I'm an original Met fan going all the way back to 61.
See that, Ann? I knew I liked you. Yeah, the Mets are my National League team, and I grew up about 15 minutes from Manhattan, and lots of time on Long Island, you know, Nassau Coliseum and Uniondale and the whole thing there. But yeah, Mets all the way.
Oh, man, I can't tell you how many great concerts I went there. Everything from, was it Jethro Tull, Deep Purple, and I can go on and on the Coliseum. So that dates me. That really does date me.
Yeah, great venue though, and it was, you know, I saw Billy Joel there multiple times, and real good stuff. But yeah, Mets fans on that Juan Soto watch right now. So other than politics, that's where a lot of the attention is right now in the country on what TV will land with.
Yeah. All right. Well, talking politics, we had talked a little bit about some of the picks that Donald Trump has taken for his staff, his cabinet, and so forth. And since you are a big Sarah Palin fan, you felt that she should fit somewhere in there. Give us your thoughts and why.
Yeah, so first, just cards on the table here. I am 100% behind President Trump. I was there day one. I interviewed him on my show in 2015, so right after he declared. So the real infancy of his candidacy, endorsed him officially in January, as did Governor Palin of 2016. And the two of them have had a great rapport together. He did, to his credit, endorse her in her congressional run a couple of years ago. But you got to remember, when he first announced his candidacy, the pushback was immense, particularly by Republicans. Ted Cruz was the darling at the time, coming off the whole Tea Party thing, another guy who Governor Palin helped get over the top in his first Senate run. And a lot of people thought he would be the nominee. Certainly Trump was a guy that was looked at as, okay, this is some sideshow deal, at best. And at worst, they looked at him as a vote stealer. He was going to be like a Jill Stein or a Ralph Nader here and mess up Republicans in the primary, whatever way they wanted to go. Governor Palin endorsed him, and that kind of got a lot of pushback from it, from the Cruz camp and from others. And that kind of gave some people wait a minute. Okay, Donald Trump's legitimate now. This isn't just a guy who's running for, whatever other nefarious reason. And Governor Palin helped put him on the map. So I truly believe he's not president without her. I don't think he wins those early primaries, because I think a lot of the push he got were from people that would have, put their vote and their support and enthusiastic support elsewhere. Also, though, she's important. She's capable. She's needed, whether it's energy issues, whether it's, issues that have to do with women in sports, whether it's issues that have to do with Israel, with family, with Second Amendment. I mean, Governor Palin, I've always said, Trump and Palin are the only two politicians, and I hate to use that word for them because the reason I like them both is because they're not politicians, but they're the only two in politics who I've trusted pretty much 100%. Whether you agree with everything they do or not is one thing, but the honesty's there, the loyalty's there, I'm not going to apologize for being pro-America is there. And to have her not included in a second go around is a real head scratcher, because she has been very loyal to President Trump, but more importantly to the entire MAGA movement.
I've been in with the Tea Party since its onset. We formed back in 2009, and we're still active. Matter of fact, our county felt our wrath in this last election. And I had a newspaper 2 weeks in a row mention our Tea Party being the cause of a problem.
Yeah,
so
of course.
I know what it is to be in the paper and be attacked, but that's the thing. She, like Trump, had been excoriated in the media to the point where she has a defamation lawsuit in court. I think it's still on against the New York Times. Back on. They had the one round, and now they're going to go at it again. They just cleared it the other day. So, but you make a great point, and there's a kinship there, right? I mean, first of all, neither one has ever said anything negative about the other. It's been a fantastic, powerful relationship, but they've just never made it official as far as her in a capacity with the administration in any way. But if you look at them, not only are they similar, which is funny, right? A mom from Alaska and then a business mogul from New York. And, it's a total, you'd say, how is this a match? But it really is. I mean, not only are they big music fans and fans of combat sports and have those things in common, but just the way they go about things. They're like, it's that populist feel, and in a positive way. And I know that word can be, taken one way or another, but where you hear it all the time about Trump, right? All the money he makes, but who does he somehow? He relates to the cab driver. He relates to the doorman. He relates to the construction worker. And Governor Palin does that because she is an ordinary person who's done extraordinary things. So, they have that. But it's also the point that she would be so very valuable here. And, there's also that other part, whether you think it's petty or not, and it's not a reason why you should pick someone overall. But
man, you still want to make the woke heads explode. Add Governor Palin to this list of people, and you'll see a lot of fun there.
Has she expressed interest recently at all in being a cabinet pick? I like you said, I mean, I've always known her to support Trump and his administration and his policies 110%, but I haven't heard anything recently about her even being interested, but I could totally be out of the loop. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been, and I'm not going to speak for her, but I think it's been hinted at from her. And as far as other people saying it and then her giving her like or what have you on social media to those comments, she has posted a picture of herself, in Washington, standing in Washington, D.C., and just leaving it without much of a caption to make people say, what's going on here. She's also reposted things about, hey, look at these pics who are there, but here's someone from day one who was, MAGA before MAGA was cool and isn't there. And then you look at the pics that are there. And listen, it's great that people have come around on President Trump. It's great that he's been able to, maybe forgive, if not forget, some things. But when you have Governor Palin, who's been loyal since day one, and then you have other people in who have bashed President Trump, yet they've been picked for spots, that's interesting. That's interesting. And there's so many things. And look, the ship has already sailed. I mean, they're not confirmed, but energy, interior, ambassador to Canada, things that would make sense for her, all already given to other people. So you'd like to at least hear the why, and I have my thoughts on that, but if nothing else, but I'm in a perfect world, you would like to see her there because she, as she said long ago, would shake things up. And I mean, he uses the drill baby drill. I mean, she made that popular. There's so many things that she started that you would like to see her help finish.
Yeah. I think loyalty and consistency should be rewarded. And it is interesting why she hasn't been chosen. I wasn't aware that she had been, liking things on social media or anything like that, or that she'd even come up recently about that. So I do remember how tough skinned she is. And just kind of like Trump, they're like ducks. It just falls right off their back. I remember SNL used to just bash her into the ground, tried to make her look stupid, and it only made them look bad. So, but I remember those skits when I was younger, how big of a deal they were, and I'm interested in knowing why you think that she hasn't been chosen.
Well, and she even went as far as making a comment. Someone asked her point blank, would you consider ambassador to Canada? And she basically said yes. And as I said, that's already gone. And the SNL stuff, Hannah, you nailed it, right? I mean, people still attribute quotes to her that she never said that were said by Tina Fey. And by the way, you can see Russia from parts of Alaska. So just for that little fact check. But listen, here's the only thing I think it could be. Okay. And this is from me. But again, I trust President Trump because he's never backed down on his word. So how can you not trust him? Okay. And they've always gotten along. All right. So the only thing I can think of, the one criticism I've had of Donald Trump from the beginning of his first presidency till now, and you know what? This may be a positive attribute as a person, but the reason it got me as a president, I still think he's a little too trusting of some of these worms and weasels who are out there for the wrong reasons, and they're going to yes him and like him to death when it's convenient. But everybody has their price. Once the book deal or once the better guy comes along or once the power changes, all of a sudden the backstabbing starts. And I understand the man's come from what? Real estate, building, development, football, boxing. And who has he surrounded himself with in those situations? People who know building and real estate and football and boxing. And I think his first time around in 2016, he thought, okay, well, I'm going to be president now, but I've never been in government. I've never done this. I need to bring in guys who were in government. No, you don't. That's the problem. And he did. And we saw how that happened, right? We had the House, we had the Senate. Still, Obamacare wasn't repealed. You had these guys giving him terrible advice, and not necessarily that they're bad guys all around, but they're establishment GOP. The whole reason why the Republicans have been losing over the years and everything else, whether it's the Romneys, the McCains, the Bushes, whoever it is, you saw the first administration, people are excited now about Elon Musk. They're excited about Vivek. They're excited about Tulsi Gabbard, people like that. Were people saying, yay, Reince Priebus is here, when the first administration started? I don't think so. And so the only thing I could think of, because there's a lot of Palin haters, and you nailed it, Hannah, because there was Palin derangement syndrome way before there was Trump derangement syndrome. There are people that must be in his ear that he trusts for whatever reason, or that who knows who it is, right? That is someone around him, his sons, whoever it may be, trust whoever these people are that say, we don't want her anywhere around here. Because it can't be the other reason. And the other reason is that Donald Trump would be afraid to share a stage with Sarah Palin. No way. That's just not the thing. That's what people do to Trump. That's why the Jeb Bushes and the Chris Christies of the world didn't like him, because they wanted credit. They wanted to be alpha when really Trump was the man in charge. Palin and Trump would be great together, and I think that Trump would know that. So I can only think that he is someone that he trusts that is saying you don't want to be anything near her for whatever reason.
Wow. That's packed in a lot there. Packed in a whole lot. But it's possible because maybe even talking on the show, someone will get their ear and say, hey, listen, this was there. They're talking about Sarah Palin. The word is getting out there. I remember the Mama Grizzly Bear, lipstick on a pig and everything else that was said about her at the time. And matter of fact, Ted Cruz and Raphael Cruz were at our convention in South Carolina that we had. It was the South Carolina Tea Party Coalition convention. So I got to talk to them and missed Trump by a few minutes because I had to go home for a Tea Party meeting. So, yeah, there are some people that they want to take the stage. They want to say, look at me, look at me, look at me. And there are other people that say, hey, listen, I don't care. I'll just get the job done. Just let me do the job. And I think Sarah Palin is that type of a person.
Well, in the piece I wrote recently for the New York Sun, I talked about, how her loyalty can't be questioned at all, because remember, Donald Trump's been president already for 4 years. She didn't get a position then. Also, think of this. She has never been back to the Republican National Convention since her tremendous speech in 2008, when she was the first and still only woman to be on a GOP ticket. Okay, that's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump wasn't involved in the RNC then or anything like that. That was the powers that be in the Republican Party that didn't want her around. But think about that, right? Here you have someone who draws tremendous crowds, who everywhere she goes, again, shakes it up. And she has not spoken at a Republican National Convention since 2008. She hadn't been at CPAC for years until rather recently. So there's definitely this Palin deal, the same thing Trump got for many years and still does from some, where, they're just so obsessed with anything but Trump, anything but Palin. And that's what's happening here. It's just a matter of, do you ever find out, or, who exactly, whatever, it doesn't matter. But Trump has an opportunity here. And even if you want to play devil's advocate, and I don't believe this at all, but let's just pretend, the people that go, oh, Sarah Palin brings baggage. Oh, Sarah Palin, you don't want that problem. Oh, it's not good for you, the polls, this and that. Trump can't run again. This is it. This is one-time deal. So he can do whatever he wants right now and do the right thing. And not that I think he would have done this if there was a second term possibility after this term, but he's got carte blanche as far as, as what he wants to do. And everybody's going to have to deal because he won in convincing fashion. But again, Palin's resume is there. What she would bring to the table is there. And the biggest thing is, as citizenry, right? We the people know that she is always about America first, and everything she stands for is what's great about why America is exceptional. So you'd have a great, great person on board.
Well, I hope he's listening. But I'll tell you one thing, Hannah. Someone turned around and sent a message over to Chris Plant saying that they want you on the show. So if you get a phone call,
cool beans.
It won't be the first time something like that happened. Okay. Anyway, with his other picks, do you see any problems with the other picks that he's had so far, or are you agreeing with what he's got and doing?
Well, problems, I mean, for me personally, like I'm pretty comfortable with most of them. There's some I like better than others. Problems as far as if they're going to be confirmed or how smoothly it's going to go, I think Hegseth's the issue right now. I mean, I think that's definitely building up where, there may have to be a move. There's been some rumblings that they already have DeSantis in the bullpen in case they need to go to him if that doesn't work out. I mean, you got to love the Kash Patel deal. I mean, again, it's what I went back to earlier. If you want to be lazy about things, just see how much woke heads, I used to say liberal heads, but there's no liberals anymore. There's no Democrats anymore. It's this crazy woke insanity that we're dealing with. And, but when you see woke heads explode, you know that that's a good pick. And the whole Kash Patel thing going on right now, oh man, they don't like this guy. So, he'll be in a good spot. I think the Getz thing worked out great. I think I like the Pam Bondi deal better. But overall, there's some I like. There's some that are whatever. Mike Huckabee to Israel's fantastic. I mean, he's had such a great relationship with Israel. So yeah, I mean, I think he's doing a nice job. But again, over the years, I've really limited. There's congresspersons, there's senators I like. But after Palin and Trump, there's a step down as far as my trust level. And so you got to always be cautious with everybody in politics, but hopefully things will work out. And at the end of the day, why did he win, right? Yes, the border. Yes, the woke insanity, but people want to be able to pay for groceries. People want to be able to pay for gas. And I think that he's definitely moving in the right direction there.
Yeah. Well, we were early talking with Mark Tapscott about Doge with Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. And the problems that they're going to be facing trying to reform government. It's not an easy task. And I don't think it's going to occur in 4 years, which means we need to look beyond the 4 years to start looking to see who will step up to run after Trump. What are your thoughts?
You're right. And that's a problem because everyone has always tried to overanalyze. Well, why don't people vote in bigger numbers? Why doesn't so-and-so win? And the number one answer is apathy. Most people, sadly, in our country, really, I mean, you've seen the old bit Jay Leno used to do, or you see it now on a lot of social media, young people. There's a guy who does this all the time. They ask basic questions to people. People don't know anything. They don't know what's going on. So because of that, people now think, oh, well, this will all be fixed in 4 years. And unfortunately, if you don't have a rock star type candidate in 2028, they'll use that. They'll say, oh, Musk and Vivek, they failed. It didn't work out. You're absolutely right, Ann. That's going to take 10 years, right? At least, right? But Hannah's going to understand that. You're going to understand that because you watch what's going on. But the problem is, how will it be conveyed? I mean, The View isn't going to say that. The media outlets aren't going to say that. So the progress that they make, the message of it being put out there of how it's going and that it must continue will have to be there. What I do love about what they're doing with Doge is that if you saw the other day, they said they're going to have a weekly podcast. They're going to talk about exactly what's going on. So that transparency will be there. So hopefully they do put timeframes on it. And you don't have to sugarcoat, be honest. And I think that's what we saw with this election. People want to be talked to just with honesty because, one of the great things I thought Trump did on the trail this year was like, hey, you don't have to like me, but you have to vote for me. And I really do think he got a lot of people there. We're like, you know what? I can't stand this guy, but I can't pay for anything. And we already saw him do it. And this nuttiness with Biden and Kamala and whoever else, was just knocked down. Now, as far as candidacies in 28, I mean, right, never too early, right? But what we've noticed in the last, few cycles is whoever the hot name is at the time that seems to never get the nomination, then they're kind of remember back in 08, they were talking about Giuliani, other people. So, you hear Shapiro a lot for the Dems. Obviously, J.D. Vance would have a claim at it as Veep. But the thing with Vance is that, remember, this is going to be a one term no matter what. So that doesn't mean that J.D. Vance is automatically a favorite as vice president, because that usually comes after a 2-term president where the vice president then steps up like Biden did with Obama. So, we won't necessarily see that. Man, I would love to see Sarah Palin do it. I tell you that would be, Trump 2.0 right there or vice versa.
Sue in the chat room just said, "I love Palin for president."
All right, Sue. We love you, Sue. But there's names out there. There's people to think about, and we'll see. But it could always just be a shocking surprise, right? But I do think the one thing we need to do is think out of the box, right? I mean, our founders said it, right? They wanted everybody to be in government, but they wanted them out of it too, right? Bring your dentists, bring your teachers, bring your policemen, bring your garbage collector, but then serve and get out. Not this nonsense where, Biden's there for 50 years and Pelosi, I mean, they never leave, right? And so presidents and governors, they have the term limit, so they have to leave. So I think it's more going to be about messaging, and that and people have to stick to Trump, because as Trump has always said, they're not after him, they're after us. It's through him. So the whole MAGA deal has to continue. It has to be a MAGA candidate, and not, you can't fall back to some, milquetoast Republican.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a lot of work to keep on doing. And that's one thing we have to learn as Republicans, is that you can't let up. I mean, I've been sending that message out for the last 16 years. And that's why my Tea Party still survives today and still relevant. We need people that have the will to pursue it year after year, day after day. You just can't stop it, and you can't let up.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. And I love when you say that, right? How you keep going back saying Tea Party, and how I've said MAGA, right? Conservative. Like, we're not saying Republican, because unfortunately the Republican Party now, it's having a resurgence. There's a revival now, but that's been largely because of what we just talked about. It's because of Trump, and it's because earlier the Tea Party, and who was one of the main cogs of the Tea Party? Governor Palin.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, Kevin. When these past couple of years, this past administration, all they've done is talk down to people, talk at people, make you feel. They make people feel small and stupid all at the same time. And I think a couple minutes ago you mentioned how Vivek and Elon, they'll be doing those weekly podcasts, and that transparency is key. Talking to someone rather than at someone is key, and I think key to winning the next election after this upcoming administration is also having someone that goes in and runs on the same agenda, the same policies as the president-elect. And so it'll be interesting times to see. In the back of my head, I naturally think that might be Vance, but it doesn't mean anything. I mean, he could, as you said, he could not become popular all of a sudden, and so we'll have to see if. But I do think that the only way to the White House in the next election is going to have to be someone who runs their agenda and their campaign very similarly to the MAGA style, Trumponian style, because people are so tired of being talked down to.
Well, one thing I've noticed that I've said this in a couple of my guests in the past. This is a movement that stirred the heart of America, the true people in America, those of us that are hardworking. We are. It doesn't matter if you're conservative or Republican, or you can be independent or what. You can be a blue dog Democrat. But this started a long, long time ago. And it started when Reagan left the Democratic Party, so famously saying, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. They left me. It stopped being the party of the working man and became that of the aristocrats and the professors. And that's when it started. And it just, the movement just started to keep on growing and growing, because people started to say, hey, finally someone understands us. And then with him came Newt Gingrich with the Pact with America. And that I think was the start where the people started to think Tea Party like. And when we started the Tea Party, it kept it. And Trump saw it, he fed on it. So it started, thank you, Ronald Reagan. And they're out there. We're out there. And we saw in this last election, when motivated, we can get them to move. But we used the same tactics this time that the Democrats did. We sent out the postcards. We knocked on doors. We texted people. We made phone calls. We set up, voter registrations. We went out there and we spoke. I mean, I must have spoke to 5 or 6 groups before this past election. And we worked our butts off. We did it like the Democrats did. They taught us, and that's what we have to remember. And just keep it going, because the heart of America has been awakened. Am I looking at this right or wrong, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, Newt Gingrich never gets the credit he deserved. Bill Clinton took all the credit for all of that, and that none of that happens without Speaker Gingrich. So great point there. No, you're right. This was a beautifully run campaign from the grassroots, from the people, and from Donald Trump himself. I mean, the whole McDonald's thing, the garbage truck, he used today's technology, but also went old school at the same time. And on Hannah's point, how refreshing, right? We're going to go from Biden and Harris, who've been hiding for 4 years, even when campaigning, right? Biden blamed COVID. He was hiding in the basement. Kamala here wouldn't answer any questions. And now we're going to have podcasts every week from people who are right there and telling us what's going on. Like they said, pulling the curtain back, which is what it not supposed to be. It's what it is constitutionally. They work for us, not the other way around. We're in charge. And the fact that the Palins and the Trumps and the Gingriches of the world say that, they get it. But you got to love how, right, hardcore Democrats, right, are coming. I mean, you talk about Kennedy and Tulsi, but look at like Mayor Adams in New York right now. I mean, this guy's threatening going to the Republican Party because who's one of the people who actually backed him was Donald Trump from when he was getting attacked by the press and all this fake nonsense that goes on. And I think people are starting to see, I mean, look how these countries are getting in line, right? The man's not even president yet. He's president-elect. Days after he got elected, they're running to the table. Oh, we need to talk, right? You're seeing the culture change. Commercials are all of a sudden different. Movies are changing. You're going to start to see America again, not just in the White House and then, the bottom line at the grocery store, but also what we're seeing and hearing. People are understanding that the celebrity endorsement and all of that is exactly what it always has been, nonsense, but we needed someone to call it out and prove it. And, we have to keep going in that way. But yeah, the knocking on the door, the being engaged, and what I've said all the time, right, with McCain, with Romney, yeah, everybody held their nose and voted, but there's a difference between supporting someone and enthusiastically supporting someone. This whole Trump thing, it's big because people, all the time, everywhere I go, people talk about Trump. They're like, I love Trump. Oh, this and that. You see these guys, you see women, you see kids, they're wearing the hat. How about the NFL, right? We went from Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the anthem to NFL players doing the Trump dance. I mean, and this
the
happened in just days.
Redskins coming back. Washington Redskins coming back.
Looking good. I mean, they may not change the name back, but I think the logo's coming, and hopefully that continues. And who would have thought, if I told you that 3 years ago, in a day and age when we can't even define what a man or a woman is, right? If I told you all of this was going to happen, you'd say, you're crazy. You said, that's all gone. Like, Trump will never, and instead, and we know a lot of it is capitulation because they're scared of what's going to happen to them because of what they've done before. But look at, Scarborough, look at all these people, Trudeau, they're kissing the ring because they see, people really do like this guy. Why do they like this guy? Because he doesn't lie, because it's his policies and because it's about America.
Even Mark Zuckerberg.
It's another one.
Now have Mark Zuckerberg has come on board.
He's trying to.
Yeah. We're going to see blue dog Democrats like Reagan brought them in. But you're going to see them that may even turn around and become true Republicans and conservatives. We've seen it happen before. But yes, with Mayor Adams, wanted to see the policies change there. Because I remember in New York City, if you ended up picking up someone you suspected of being illegal and you're processing them, you were not allowed to ask if they were illegal, so ICE could not come and detain them. And that was under Giuliani.
Yeah.
But it was the city policy that he had to adhere to. And
right.
He was the mayor.
Right. Yeah, I know. But Zuckerberg, you're right. I just mentioned him to my daughter today. I said, can you believe this? Right. I mean, guys who and then others who even just actively campaigned against him. Mark Cuban. Oh, I'm ready to work with Donald Trump. I mean, they're all of a sudden. Bill Maher. Listen, I've had a lot of problems with Bill Maher over the year, especially the things he said about Governor Palin. But I've always liked his work with dogs. I always liked how he was one of the few that didn't run from Don Imus when that whole controversy went on, when everybody dumped Imus. Maher was true there. And I got to tell you, he didn't want Trump to win, but you see some of the things he has called out craziness from the left here and there throughout this campaign and what's been going on. And you see how quickly they turn. I mean, oh man, you speak one word, against that whole crew, right? The Obama powerhouse there. And I mean, you're dead. I mean, they are done with you, and they're vicious. So, and that's why you get a lot of people who don't want to run, because it is just such a nasty, nasty thing. I mean, look at Trump, right? All that money, right? His age. Why would you want to do this otherwise, except for two reasons? He really believes in America and wants to fix it, and he's stubborn, and he's going to show everybody, hey, no, I can do this. I mean, he got shot. I mean, it's crazy that he would keep doing this stuff. So and I think people finally said, okay, wait a minute, this guy really is authentic.
Yeah, I think a lot of Trump's the fact that he's doing so well, I think is his likability and his relatability, and I think he's doing really well amongst the youth. Kids think he's cool. There's something cool and likable about him, and it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're his age, then you're like, oh, another cool grandpa. If you're my parents' age, you think he's a cool dad. And the younger kids think he's cool. I mean, there's something likable. He's got Jake and Logan Paul. And he's showing up to these fights. He's getting a very niche, specific, targeted audience there, and it's working. They think he's cool, and it's because he is. But I haven't met anyone my age or younger that had something to say. It's usually I don't know. There's something in strategy here. He's very marketable, and he's been able to hit every youth, every age, and so it's very interesting. And I think the left tried so hard to knock him off his base, and it didn't work. If anything, it just made him want to go out there and even more. Like you mentioned, him getting shot at. I mean, I thought he was down. I thought he was going to crawl off that stage, but no, he stood up. And what do we have? Like an award-winning photo from that. I mean, he's not going to back down. And like you said, he's stubborn. He's as all get out. But at least he's on our side. At least he's on America's side. And at the same time, he's cool. There's no way around it. That's the word to describe him.
Yeah, well, Ann mentioned Reagan. I mean, we haven't had that type of candidate since Trump. And the Democrats always have, right? Bill Clinton on Arsenio Hall, right? Like it or not, a lot of people like Hillary, okay? Obama, oh, he's so cool, right? All this stuff. Not only did we not have the cool rock star candidate, a lot of the establishment Republicans didn't want it. They're always so, oh, well, we don't want to do this and that. You have to have that. It's your only way to get people to listen, because otherwise you're just, look, the left, at least pre-election, had control of everything, right? The media, Washington, the schools, the colleges and universities. So where else can you have, if you have a boring candidate up there who they're just going to look as another Republican, no one's going to respond to that. And that's why, and Hannah, please understand, I meant it as a compliment saying this stubbornness, because also the whole Twitter thing, right? How he gets slammed for that. He had to do that because it's his only way to get his word out, where he knows that no one's going to edit it. Yeah. Okay. And that was so hypocritical too, right? Oh, FDR, he's great on radio. What a genius. Oh, look at John Kennedy. He's using the TV. That's great. Oh, look at Obama, the Blackberries and everything else. He's so cool. Oh, Trump, why is he tweeting at 3 a.m? It's so fake, but he had to do it. And I love that stuff. I can't stand when Republicans preface comments with, well, I like Trump, but I really wish he'd stop doing that. Are you kidding me? He's not elected if he doesn't do that stuff. And he's funniest. I mean, Ann understands this, because I don't know, part of the country, I guess they don't get the whole New York, North Jersey, Northeast thing, but like everybody I grew up with talks like
sarcasm.
Yeah. I mean, that's how everybody, right? You talked about the Mets, right? Go to Queens, go to Long Island, go to North Jersey. Trump doesn't shock anybody there. This is how everybody's grandmother and dad and everybody talked. And it's real and it's authentic. And so you'd rather, I always said, you want a plumber to come to your house and he's sweet to you and your wife, and then he floods the place? Or do you want a guy, maybe a little rough around the edges, says a few things you may not love, and he fixes it and gives you a great price? Taking that guy every day.
Well, we're down to our last 5 minutes. This has gone so fast and so fun. And I just love letting people go and talk and take over the show. I don't mind. But Kevin, where can people find you if they want to get in contact with you and see what your writings and your broadcast and everything? Where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. So the artist formerly known as Twitter is the best, X, right? At Kevin Scholla, also at Mama Grizz Radio on Twitter. And then on Facebook, Kevin Scholla and Mama Grizzly Radio. And on Instagram, Kevin Scholla and Mama Grizzly Radio there as well. Facebook's Kevin Scholla USA, I think. But yeah, you can just Google it up, see what happens. And yeah, that's the best places. And also, I'm on Breitbart. I'm on the New York Sun, sarahpalin.com, where just no sleep. Got to walk the dogs too. So anything but sleep.
Okay.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll have you back at another time. But Hannah, also thank you for stepping in and being my guest co-host. People can find you at fairus.org, and you used to work for Heritage, but now you're over at FAIR, so people can check you out there. And let's see if you end up on Newsmax or Fox News or something soon.
Okay.
Well, with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us. They can find us at southernsense.net. And for now, I'd like to say good night and God.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Mourn for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. For the friends we have loved and lost, and we still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. We know it's not too late to save America. Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save America.